Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party (DPP) candidate William Lai has emerged victorious after a tightly contested presidential election as the island's next leader, Fox News Digital confirms. Subscribe my channel for more update. The results are in, and Taiwan's voters stood up to China and all its war talk of recent weeks, Gordon Chong, Gatestone Institute senior fellow and China expert, told Fox News Digital. Free people, living just 100 miles from the menacing Chinese state, refused to be intimidated. Lai defeated his rival, new Taipei City Mayor Hu Yuih of the Kuomintang KMT party, by just over 7% of the vote after Hu conceded at 8 p.m. local time. Taiwan saw around 69% of voters turnout for the election this year, less than the impressive 75% seen in the 2020 election, which saw 13.6 million people turn out to vote, but more than the 66% that turned out for the 2016 election, according to the Taipei Times. The victory marks DPP's third successive win over KMT for the first time since Taiwan began democratic elections over 30 years ago, the first time a party has done so, with parties retaining control for no more than 8 years before switching places as voter sentiment swayed between the two major parties. The voters broke a pattern that has held since the first democratic elections in Taiwan in 1996, Chong said. The Democratic Progressive Party, the Pro-Taiwan Party, and the Pro-China Kuomintang Party have traded the presidency every 8 years. Beijing insists the people of Taiwan are Chinese. By voting for Lai, they have now loudly declared they are Taiwanese. Fox News Digital spoke to one woman in the city of Kaohsiung who flew from California to vote in the election. The woman said she voted for Lai for his policy of making the country independent was good for the people. She also dismissed the main opposition candidate from the KMT for being too close to China, saying it would be dangerous for the country. Lai held a slender lead going into the final weeks of the election. The last polling, released more than 10 days before the vote, had him averaging 5 points ahead of Hu, with some polls showing them separated by just 1 point. Early results however saw Lai take a comfortable lead of around 43.27% compared to Hu's 34.01% after just about 10% of polling places had reported. The lead narrowed slightly as results continued to trickle in, but not by enough for KMT to have a realistic chance at victory. Hu, joined by major KMT party figures, spoke to his supporters after 87% of the vote had been counted and it became clear that the path to victory had closed. Hu congratulated Lai and declared that all must work together for the good of Taiwan as he thanked voters for their support. Third-party DPP candidate, former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je, conceded shortly after Hu did. Beijing did not indicate which candidate in the field it supported, but analysts identified Hu as the most likely candidate, with his party historically more friendly to the mainland. Chinese officials also went to great lengths to frame the vote as a choice between war and peace, with Lai pitched as a separationist who would lead Taiwan to conflict. DPP's lead in the most recent election proved the tightest win since KMT last took victory in 2012's presidential election, winning that contest by around just 6 points. The two successive elections saw DPP win back and retain control of the government with double-digit support. Third-party TPP's roughly 3.3 million votes is the largest number a third-party candidate has won since the 2000 presidential election. In another historic first, DPP's vice presidential candidate, former Taiwanese representative to the United States Xiao Bai Kim, is the first mixed-race candidate to hold the position. Xiao mother is American mother. Heino Klink, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia and military attaché to China, previously told Fox News Digital that the election would likely play out fairly straightforwardly. Instead, Klink warned that China would more likely retaliate during the months leading up to Lai's inauguration with military drills and surveillance pressure to try and influence Lai's posturing ahead of his tone-setting inaugural speech. Now, the world should ask itself this: why, after this election, should the rest of us be afraid of that aggressor, Xi Jinping? Chong argued. It is now time for the United States to support free people who insist on governing themselves.